We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. It's only 9 words long, but it says so much, doesn't it? We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. And as you may have gathered, we're flipping the script and doing the Pride Month update first today. Now, if you're the same age as I am, you remember a world where there were only really 2 or 3 gay pride parades in the whole country every year. San Francisco's always had one, because of course they have. And LA and New York came along a little later, but for the whole time I was growing up, and a fair bit of my adulthood too, that was it. And the parades themselves were rather starkly different in character. Back then they mostly consisted of fairly normal-looking, well-dressed people walking down the street holding hands with their same-sex partners. Fast forward to the present day, and you don't need me to tell you what the average pride parade looks like. They are basically open-air public sex orgies done with the explicit approval of local government and law enforcement. So where just 8 or 10 years ago, if a naked middle-aged man was waving his genitals in the faces of small children in the middle of a public roadway, that man could have expected to be swiftly arrested and to spend a not insignificant portion of the rest of his natural-born life in prison where he damn well belongs. And not a single person, gay, straight, or otherwise, would have objected to that pervert pedophile scumbag being taken off the street and removed from polite society. And if you've seen the bit of viral video that's been making the rounds from the Seattle Pride Parade the other day, that is exactly what you saw. A fully naked man around the same age as me, waving his sex organs at small children and evidently having the time of his life while doing it. It goes without saying that this man's actions violate pretty much every public decency law on the books, but we know how this drill goes by now. Public decency laws, like a whole host of other types of laws, simply don't apply to you if you are a member of a group that the Democrat Party considers a part of its coalition. So if you're a gay exhibitionist pedophile sex pervert, you can do pretty much any damn thing you want, any damn where you want, as long as it's being done in the context of the depraved public sex orgies that we euphemistically refer to as pride parades. And it was at the New York City public gay sex orgy, pride parade, where we heard that now infamous chant, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming in your children." Coming for your children. Bit of a Freudian slip there. And that chant, in and of itself, is a potent reminder of a fact that you often hear me reiterate, that the difference between crazy right-wing conspiracy theory and verifiably true fact about the world is always under 5 minutes. For years and decades now, the sex pervert industrial complex has been flatly insisting that their movement has nothing to do with grooming children and recruiting them into non-normative sexual lifestyles. Shut up, homophobe! All we want is the government out of our bedrooms. All we want is our privacy and to be left alone. Which is about as believable at this point when they say it as it is when the Duke and Duchess of Douchebag say it. We've flown here to Africa accompanied by the entire World Press Corps to tell you all how very badly we want our privacy. Why can't you monsters just leave us alone? When we're on our 3rd worldwide press junket of the year, you should all be ashamed. And it's no less absurd, obviously, trying to play the "we just want the freedom to love in private" card when the highlight of your entire year is parading down Main Street, USA in a leather harness and nipple clamps while flagellating the exposed backside of your best friend with a cat o' nine tails. It's a rather counterintuitive way of asserting your desire for privacy, is all I'm saying. And it might sound strange to say, but I think we should actually be encouraged by how obscene and disgusting and depraved these pride parades have become this year. Because these deviants know in their heart of hearts that the clock is about to strike midnight for the sex pervert industrial complex. And whatever public goodwill these things used to enjoy is now well and truly gone. So they're acting the way that all cornered, wounded animals act. They know this is probably their last chance to have their government-sanctioned public sex orgies, and they're going to go out kicking and screaming and chanting and flagellating. And to the extent that these open-air mobile sex orgies we used to call pride parades ever enjoyed widespread public approval, It was largely a result of apathy and inattention. Up until now, most people at least tacitly approved of the concept of pride parades because they didn't know what really went on there. Because in the abstract, from 30,000 feet, there's nothing very objectionable about gay people wanting to have a gay parade once a year. Even though there is something intrinsically weird and disordered about wanting people to cheer for your sexual proclivities. If it's just a thing they're doing once a year and they're not involving little kids in it, then who cares? Let them have their dumb gay parade. It's a free country, right? But that has all changed rather markedly this year. Changed a whole hell of a lot, in fact, because ordinary people, normal, decent people, they're now paying attention in large numbers to what actually goes on at these things. It is really easy to say, sure, I support gay pride parades, but it's much more difficult to say that when you are watching a naked, middle-aged pedophile waving his tallywhacker in the faces of 7- and 8-year-old children. It's much more difficult to say that when you see a crowd of transvestites shouting at the top of their lungs, yeah, Mom and Dad, you bet your ass we're coming for your kids. Each and every one of these events has to be permitted each and every year. And you know when it stops? It stops when in every town and city in America, when it's time for the local council to consider the Pride Parade permit for this year, that meeting is inundated by normal, decent citizens who refuse to have their town be a venue for a public gay pedophile sex orgy and are willing to say so. We don't have to tolerate this stuff. In fact, we have a moral obligation not to tolerate it. Democracy works. There are vastly more normal, decent people than there are deviant pedophile sex perverts. And when those normal people start putting in just a little bit of effort to assert that their normalcy and decency, when they come back to the realization that communities are allowed to have reasonable standards of public decency, that they don't have to bend over backward to accommodate other people's weird, creepy fetishes, then it's game over for the sex pervert industrial complex.